Hello, everybody. It's Andrew Freeman and Candace MacDonald. How are you today?
Hi.
It is round 2 of our trend report, and just wanted to say thank you so much for joining us. And we're going to jump right in. We have a lot of content to cover today, and we really we want to be respectful of your time. So we'll jump right in. I just want to do a couple of quick notes. We'll get into the theme in a minute, but hopefully you have your dancing shoes ready to go. There may be a few moments of dancing just to get out some of the frustration that we're feeling right now. But I wanted to say it has been a year. I think we all know that, and we have a lot to cover. And while predicting trends in a pandemic has definitely been the most interesting exercise I think we've ever done, because there's a little crystal ball action going on here with not knowing what tomorrow is going to bring. We do think we're going to bring you some really good insights that will hopefully help you navigate the coming year. By the way, the report will be emailed to you, or you can download it at either of our websites, af&co or Carbonate, and you can see our hashtags there. And so, please feel free to promote the report on your own social media. If you see a trend you like or anything that you feel is relevant, just tag us along the way, and we're totally open to you stealing any of our ideas. As we dig in, I do also want to remind you that you can put questions in the chat function. We have a lot to cover today, but we are going to try to leave a few minutes at the end to answer any questions that you may have. And finally, I just want to say that while we're going to have a little fun today, I do want to say, to be respectful of the year that we've all been having, that the resilience of our industry and what we've been going through is certainly on the hospitality and on the restaurant side has been something that, none of us ever could have imagined. And sadly, as we're going into round 2 of this right now, with so much uncertainty about what's going to happen with travel and dining once again, I do want to say that we're not taking any of this lightly, though we will have, and I hope you'll indulge us, that it's okay to laugh a little bit. It's okay to have some fun. It's okay to remember that at the heart of this, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Great Britain is getting their vaccinations next week. They're starting to come in. So I think that if we can ride the wave of what's going to be a pretty, crappy winter, we can get through this. And once we get through it, our prediction is it's going to be like the Roaring '20s all over again, where people are going to be like, thank God I can get back out and I can enjoy life again. So I hope everybody understands that while we went through all this, it's been very emotional for everybody in the industry. And I will also say, and we agree, that our resilience has been incredible. So that leads us to the theme, which is do the hustle, because we have been hustling our little booties off for the last 10 months, trying to figure out how to deal with all this. Of course, I am a disco-aged baby, and at some other point, Candace knows this, but I was the state disco champion of New Jersey in, I think, 1987. And no, it had to be earlier than 87. Anyway, I don't want to give you my age away. But one thing you will see is that throughout this report, we will be doing the hustle a lot, and we encourage you all to do the hustle. And of course, as part of the disco age, the most famous song of that age is I Will Survive. And at first, we were all afraid, and we are still a little petrified, but we will survive. So on that note, I just think that we invite you to enjoy the report, take what you can from it, and just know that we are the most creative and resilient group of people out there, and we're going to do it. So Candace, anything you'd like to add before we jump in?
No, I think you summed it up. I think we've all, creativity has been what has kept us going through all of this. So hopefully you'll come away with some good ideas from today's report to fuel you into the next year.
Yeah, and we didn't spend a lot of time. Well, we're going to go into that right now. But to give you a quick overview, so believe it or not, in the middle of all this, af&co celebrated its 15th anniversary, November 5th. And for those of you who know me, I love a good party. So we're going to be moving that to next year when we call it our Sweet 16. but we are San Francisco about the trends.
Whoops, I'm skipping ahead there.
Okay, so how we don't give anything away. Okay.
Sorry.
So how we trend. Okay. So how we trend. Basically, there's a group of us that are, in normal circumstances, we would have been out dining and traveling and staying in hotels. This year, we had to do a lot of our legwork virtually, but we have a major person on our team named Lee Steele, and movie star. And Lee Steele is not a great movie star name. Lee Steele is our strategist who really generates the majority of this report with a lot of insights and input, but takes the lead on organizing it all. So we'll thank Lisa again at the end. And then Candace and I are very instrumental in putting it all together too. And then we have a group of contributors that we also bring to the table. And we just start with the whole year. It's a year of just looking forward. I mean, obviously this year has been completely different, but you can see many are team members of the af&co and Carbonate teams. But then we also bring in some of the key experts that we've met along the way in wine, restaurant development, beer, etc. So you're going to see a lot of their insights throughout the report.
All right. So getting into it here. So, it's hard to look at 2021 without really looking back at 2020. And as Andrew mentioned, we do this report every year. This is the 13th year that we've written it. And last year's report was called "We're Not in Kansas Anymore: The New Hospitality Landscape," because we had predicted that a number of things would change in our industry. Little did we know what was really coming our way. And so when we, back in March, thought to ourselves, okay, we have to go back and look and see, how are we going to plan for the future? Let's look at what we had predicted in 2020. And what we found was actually not that we threw the whole report away, but rather that a lot of the things that had started to take hold that we predicted would be important for operators and hospitality companies to take into consideration had actually just accelerated. And so some of our biggest trends, the things that we see really even fueling more into 2021, you'll notice have already had been taking hold in 2024. We announced last year, we called the 2020 trend of the year was vegan goes viral. I think every marketer on this call has decided to strike that term from our vocabulary. But this idea of plant-based foods was really important, not just last year, but in previous years. This has been something we've seen coming, and we predict for 2021, it's really going to expand even more. So, what you see here is plant-based global fare. So, it used to be that you kind of had, one section of your menu was focused on these plant-based foods, and now we're seeing entire restaurants that are focused on it. And so, it's an interesting thing as you look at cuisines that just traditionally aren't plant-based but are taking it on. So, we have some interesting questions to answer. What do we call that mozzarella on the vegan pizza or the shrimp on the plant-based gumbo? But nonetheless, we see that plant-based fare is going to expand and really have a variety of different flavors coming to the forefront. Another one kind of along those same lines is that last year we saw the rise of some we called it meat the future, cell cultured meat and vegan meat. And this year it's going a step further, and we're seeing animal free products are moving from these petri dishes where they're growing these animal free cell cultured meats to printable meats. So now, who knows? We've all been living at home. Maybe now we'll just be printing that fillet that we want to eat for dinner. You never know what'll happen in the next 5 years.
I gotta go print my meat. I'll be right back. Okay.
You're gonna need a new printer for that, and some new ink.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, there's an Israeli company, Redefined Meat, has developed this, and there's some others that are taking hold too. So it's a really interesting thing. Delivery of the future. This is really something, delivery was happening even before we were all stuck at home. And it was really something that the hospitality industry had really not embraced to the extent that people were trying to get the industry to embrace it. And so last year we really identified that ghost kitchens would become more popular. And this year it's really expanded quite a bit. And what we're seeing is that, we're going to continue to see the rise of these kinds of solutions, but that they're going to have to offer way more than just a real estate opportunity or we're a logistics opportunity. And really what we're seeing is that the companies that we think are going to be successful in this space are offering a full technology suite. They're offering really comprehensive marketing. The company that's pictured here, this is Crave Hospitality Group. They just opened their first location in Boise, Idaho, with plans to open many more. But they have a whole technology suite that their restaurants are using that helps identify when each kitchen in the collective should fire an item based on where the driver is. So you can see that there's things that are going to improve the experience for both guests and certainly help create efficiency for the restaurant experience. So we see this growing even more, and we think this is really just at the forefront of what it's really going to become. A few more that we got right last year. Do you want to enter these? Or these are fun. Do you want to do these?
Yes, I get to do the fun ones. I just want to say, as you go through the report, like if you go back to the, if you look at delivery, I do believe there's going to be silver linings that are going to come out of all this, and the quality of delivery service is going to be something that's going to stick. There's going to be silver linings and what's going to stick, right? And I think delivery and quality delivery is going to stick, and it's going to be an additional revenue source as opposed to your only revenue source in many cases right now. So we call this our little brag book, if you will, from last year. Who would have known that canned cocktails would really, just be the wave of like how people are ordering now, because you can order those for delivery and there's a lot more of them. And also we're going to get into how that's evolved this year. Sourdough, I got to tell you, there's been a lot of baking going on, a whole lot of baking going on. And again, when we called this, we would have never thought that there'd actually be a run on finding sourdough flour or finding items for baking. But for all of you that have taken up baking, good for you. And then restaurants designed to optimize delivery. I think we're seeing more and more of that. Smaller footprints, more flexible, like very little seating, counter style ordering or ordering online and then either coming in and picking it up or having it delivered. But I think, again, this was happening already, but it's obviously now it's definitely going to continue to happen, especially as delivery only concepts are going to continue. And then there's no place like home. Well, that was a really funny one to call early on, because we had cited that people were setting up home offices to resemble a lot of the places that they loved. But who would have known home offices would be the way we were going to work now. And while I do believe people will go back to work, and by the way, for all of you on the phone, you better go back to work, because these restaurants need your butts back in your offices so that you go back out again. But it'll be a little time, but you'll have really well-equipped home offices. So again, we didn't know what we knew when we went into this, but we were pretty smart. We had no idea a pandemic was going to increase these trends. Okay. Is this you again, Candace, or this is me, the big picture? This is me.
The big picture.
Okay, got it. Okay, so here's some big trends that are going to impact 2021. Now, I want to state some of these are already in action. So what we're also seeing is, what's going to stick and what's going to continue to grow. And I would say that the big picture, these are the key picture, the big key themes. I will survive. Hey, I got to get a couple tunes in here. But this is restaurants that have tried to figure, we promised ourselves that we'd only use the word pivot a couple times in this presentation because we're a little sick of it. Yeah, but in general, that is indeed what has happened here. And I would say that the economic downturns in the past, something always comes out of it. The food trucks came out of the 2008 downturn. Now we're in this, and what's come out of this? Well, amazing micro bakeries, pop-up restaurants, and brand extensions through direct to consumer, through doing one thing only and getting it out there. Partnerships with drive-ins and cooking classes virtually. So you think about all the things that have come out of what we're dealing with right now. And what's exciting about it, though it may not feel exciting right now, is that a lot of this is going to stick. And we're just going to have more ways to bring our restaurants and hotels to the general public. So for all of you who are doing this already, I can't see you, but give yourself a round of applause. By the way, we're showing pictures and examples on every slide. So you can Google those, and like I said, you'll get the presentation. So we won't cover all that, but it's really, if you look back on what's been exciting about this, some of the pop-ups and extensions have been great. Embrace the great outdoors, another one nobody really understood. Unfortunately, right now in the Bay Area, where it's looming that this might be challenged again for a few weeks. But in general, we've all said hello to the great outdoors, and again, I believe this will continue. We sort of went Parisian. I always think of Paris now when I see all these street cafes that are literally right in parking spaces, and parklets popping up, and outdoor experiences and covered and heated areas. I think if we hold on to some of this, and I hope we will, it'll just increase seating, for new opportunities. Plus, a lot of restaurants have taken to working in parks and wineries and places where they normally would not have been. So I think, nothing's going to snap back right away. So I think planning on outdoor experiences, at least through 2021, is going to be key.
For hotels too, we also see this being something that hotels take advantage of, for sure.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, especially for activities and outdoor gyms and things like that.
Yeah.
And then, obviously this could be a topic of a whole webinar, but another thing that 2021 did is it opened our eyes wider to systematic bias, and how we have to, as an industry, we have to continue to raise the bar on inclusion. We know we're just at the beginning of this, but I think there's some simple things that we as an industry can do. Just looking at our diversity practices, our inclusion practices, and moving away from calling things ethnic. We're American, and everybody's American, and we're American people. And while we definitely have different flavors and different influences, I think we all have to be careful to allow everybody the opportunity to shine and to be treated equally. And we're just at the beginning of this, but it's going to be a big picture for 2021 and beyond. And the example here is Bakers Against Racism, which raised $1.9 million last year for racial justice. And so I think all of you should be looking at your part of your cause-related marketing as efforts to support these, this very important cause.
Yeah. This year, we expected, when we looked at sustainability, that we might be a little bit disappointed in progress that's been made, or that things were reversed, because everybody, at the beginning of 2020, it seemed like we needed to put those concerns for the environment on the back burner, with single-use items becoming so much more important for safety reasons. But really, what we found is that concerned consumers and an industry that's already very passionate about this issue. And so this is the first year, actually, in our report that we've added a section of sustainability, things that we think are going to drive sustainability forward in the future, because it's no longer a trend. It's something that's very important, as there's a lot of nuance into the different ways and the different elements of it. So we see this really, for the hospitality industry, impacting in four main ways: packaging, food waste, localized food systems, and tourism. But the reality is that when you have Burger King introducing a low methane burger, you have Just Salad announcing a climatarian menu, Panera labeling entrees as climate friendly. This is no longer a fringe movement. This is simply the reality, which is a good thing, which we're very happy about. Sustainable packaging. This is one we are predicting that we'll see a lot more innovation in the coming year. When all of us started using and handling a lot of single-use packaging products more frequently, there's two things that came up, realizing, one, that what we have is really ineffective for transporting food. Many compostable products don't keep food at proper temperatures, and also many communities don't have the actual facilities to compost them. And so so we saw a lot of operators just not using compostables because they wanted to maintain the quality of what they were delivering. So but we believe that the increase of these products is going to the demand will create a lot of innovation in terms of how people transport food and other products. I mean, you can see here we've got McDonald's partnering in the UK, partnering with Loop to use for reusable coffee cups. We see these beautiful bottles here from Frugal Pack that are actually made of recycled paper. Sorry, my screen is behind my computer. And so we project a lot more in the area of packaging, sustainable packaging, I should say. Food waste, I think one of the things that we all started to realize when we've all been in our homes and we're thinking more about using everything in the fridge, or really planning out and cooking. When we had to cook almost all of our meals for ourselves at the beginning of the pandemic, I think many people, it really had an impact on how people view produce. And so, and food waste in general. So we see a renewed focus on food waste. We've called this making lemonade from lemons and banana bread from old bananas, because we think that people have become aware of the fact that ugly produce doesn't have to mean it's not useful. And so we've seen companies like Ugly Pickle that turns ugly produce into pickles, or Good Use that creates cold pressed juices with surplus produce. Imperfect Foods, really seeing such a huge amount of growth. And then also, companies like Republic of Tea using upcycled tea. So we think that there'll be a lot more innovation as it relates to how food waste is used, and a lot more consumer tolerance for things that might have been considered food waste prior. Direct to community distribution, this is sort of related. One of the things that the pandemic revealed is just how inefficient our food system is, when we had the contrast of so many people without access to certain foods, and then food rotting in many places as well, since there was less demand in certain the way our supply chain worked. So we saw a lot more of these CSAs. We saw a lot more people just becoming connected to farms in their areas, and also looking at how farmers and farms can be direct to consumer, but also supply their grocery stores more locally as well. So this is something we think will continue, with people having more relationships to where their food actually comes from. Redesigning tourism to preserve and persevere. This is a really interesting one. I think many of us that are in markets that rely on tourism would love to have those travelers back, because our livelihoods are so deeply impacted. But at the same time, we are seeing that many markets that had been having suffering from over tourism are also taking a step back and saying, okay, now we have a chance to rebuild this into something that's more sustainable for our future and for the people that live here. So Key West, Florida just voted in the election to ban cruise ships of over 1,300 people, changing how they're giving docking priority to cruise lines that have better environmental health records. Tourism New Zealand is looking at measuring its success, not solely in economic terms, but in terms of the well-being of the country. So not that we aren't really excited to have tourism start again, but we're seeing communities really taking a conscious effort to how to create systems that do so in a way that's going to be sustainable for the future. Do you want to dive into our trends of the year, Drew?
Okay, everybody, are you ready? Are you excited? Are you as excited as I am? I wish we could see all your faces, because I hope you're with us, because now this is where it gets exciting. Everything's been exciting, but this is where it really gets exciting. So as we look to the trends of the year, predicting trends of the year in the most unpredictable year of our lives, here we go. Okay, food of the year, quesabirria. Again, we always end up in some ooey gooey delicious bread or meat filled something with cheese. And interestingly enough, what was the Georgian one, Candace? I forgot the name of it.
Khachapuri.
Khachapuri there's a new shop in New York that just opened up that's only featuring 4 different versions of that. So this, I'm going to give Lee Steele credit for this, because she brought it to us and we were like, what the heck is that? And then the minute you see it, it's basically what it is it's sort of a messy, delicious, Mexican treat. It's a tortilla that's filled with all this deliciousness, and I'll let you read about it, but they're popping up everywhere. And the minute Lise brought it up, we started to see it everywhere. So we think that this is a specialty in of Mexican food. There's probably just going to be quesabirria shops that only focus on this item. And so that made our food of the list year. And we had a couple runners up, so we'll get into that in a few minutes. And then this is an easy one to predict that we think will continue. But what's the beverage of the year? Well, it's hot cocktails. I mean, why? Because many of us are going to be trying to enjoy outdoor dining when it's a little chilly, especially now. And what warms you up better than a little hot spiced rum or a little delicious cocktail? This one is from Sobre Mesa, that out in Oakland, and you can see how beautiful that cocktail is. But you get a sense of why they're comforting, they're delicious, and yeah, they're going to serve a purpose. They're going to keep you a little warm. Okay, cuisine of the year, Chinese American. I know. You would think, oh, well, come on, Chinese food. Well, first of all, this goes back to almost like the trend that we talked about a little earlier. As Chinese American food is quite different than, you know, what we would call authentic Chinese food, because, you know, these are Americans cooking Chinese food, the food of their ancestors. Guys, sound like I'm it's historical, but you know, I was going to say the food of their people, but I mean the food of their families and their family, you know, where they came from and the regions that they came from in China, but they're still cooking it here. And so in Chinese food, that looks at like reducing sugar, making it, refining some of the recipes, using some of our ingredients. But again, why do we see this as the trend of the year? Well, because, you know, you could easily say delivery has been Chinese, and pizza has always been the normal delivery. But this what's happened around our world right now has set the bar a little higher for quality Chinese and quality takeout in general. And we think Chinese is really the way to go. And if you look at that fortune, everybody, chow mein and pot stickers bring prosperity in 2021. So I will actually say, if you want to multitask right now, go place your Chinese order for tonight and hope that you get that fortune. Okay. Anyway, that's our cuisine of the year.
Oops, hold on. There we go.
Okay, and then cuisine's on the rise. You know, again, so many of these were fueled by what works well at home, but also what we've seen, and you know, cultural influences again on the American palate have been great, have been amazing. So regional Indian, I think everybody sort of knows Indian, but now they're really digging into the regions, just like they did in China, and they do in every, you know, a lot of people just only think of one kind of food when they think Indian or Chinese, but there's complex regions, and again, there's a zest for knowledge about where food comes from. Thank you, Gen Z and Gen X. There's a whole sense of I want to know what I want to know. And we have the millennials to thank for that as well. Afro-Caribbean, I think this is really an exciting time for that, the foods from those areas. I'll say, again, anything in the Asian world like Singapore and Malay is very interesting, but I want to spend a few minutes on the last one because it's the food of my people. And I can't say my people. We covered this a while back. We were probably a little too early to the table with this, but again, you probably have seen just the proliferation of bagels, Jewish delis. We opened one here called Mark and Mike's. And I think, again, if you look at all these foods, there's a reason why they made the list this year. And there's sort of a sense of comfort. And it's not comfort food the way we know it, but it's just delicious food. And many of them have the opportunity to offer vegetarian options, maybe not the Jewish so much, the vegetarian and plant-based, but I think these are our cuisines for this year.
All right, so that leads us into the food trends. So I think this first one is an interesting one that's, you know, we've definitely seen the most innovation in 2020 as it relates to how restaurants have, this is not about delivery, but really how you take your favorite restaurant brand home and meet people where they are. And so we've seen really interesting alternative revenue streams coming out of this for restaurants. You know, so you can see has this very popular paella kit to go. Gott's has taken their signature sauces and is marketing those for you to have that experience and make it what you like at home. So we see this one really continuing as people have started to become accustomed to the creativity coming from their restaurants or their favorite restaurants.
Candace, I was on the phone with a friend this morning, and she said that she was eating the Gott's ranch sauce with a spoon out of the jar.
See, again, taking your restaurant brand and letting them eat it how they want it.
And I was like, whatever it takes to get through this, knock yourself out. If you want it.
They must be really delicious. I have to try them.
Yeah.
There you go. this one kind of off that same vein of this is Shop Like a Chef, and this has been a really good win for a lot of for some purveyors, some suppliers, but also for consumers, because you had as everybody knows, we have a lot of restaurant suppliers who suddenly had no restaurants that were open to supply, and were forced to really think about how can they get the food that they had and the products that they had into the hands of people at home. And so we saw a lot of pivoting, and we saw a lot of restaurant suppliers quickly learn how to interact with consumers, and by creating very elaborate online retail websites, and looking at creating marketing channels that they did not have through social media and through email marketing. And what that's done is that's allowed a whole range of people to shop like a chef and really take advantage of high quality products and interesting products and things. So this example here is 4-Star Seafood and Provisions in the San Francisco Bay Area that ships broadly across California and and beyond. We saw it with others as well. I'm getting tongue-tied today, Andrew. And as people have really benefited from being able to access products they weren't able to access before.
And a little tip for all the restaurant people on the phone, like they're 4-star too, and all of them are doing like interesting features with chefs as well. So again, it's another brand extension by creating kits together. So it's just it's a good thing that's coming out of this.
Yeah. Virtual brands are the new food truck. This is an interesting thing. When it used to be you'd sort of start a food truck and test out an idea, and then maybe open a restaurant, and now you've got a restaurant, and now you can test out a virtual brand. And so what's interesting about this is that they become kind of the ultimate market study in terms of, is this idea that we have going to stick? And it's not just small operators, and it's not just large chains that are trying this. Everybody's sort of giving this a shot. It's Just Wings is from Brinkers International, but then we've also seen it from smaller independent operators too, just trying something new. And so it's a good way to test something out, because the reality is if it doesn't work, you can close it down, and it's not, you're out some effort, and obviously, it's not the same as opening a restaurant. No, you may not help yourself. So this is a very pandemic related one. I think most of us in food service are aware of cross-contamination and food safety issues, and I wouldn't expect to see a buffet, a salad bar, or a self-service food area open anytime soon. And so what we're seeing is that new technologies are coming to play to really take the place of the salad. Here you have, this is Sally from Chowbotics that's popping up in grocery stores all over the country to replace that salad bar that you see behind it in the picture. So people are still able to have that custom food experience, but don't have to risk touching or sneezing on the salad, on the food. And then we're also seeing, other lower tech solutions, of people actually just having service behind the buffet as well. So we think this will be, we won't be serving ourselves anytime soon. Ingredients on the rise. There's a number of ingredients listed here that we won't go into in detail, but the things that we're seeing becoming popular or rising in use are really related to 3 areas. Things that are health driven. So you see here we have monk fruit's a low calorie, natural alternative sweetener. Or they're related to waste reduction. So okara is a byproduct from making tofu, and it can be eaten on its own, or it can be converted to gluten-free flour, which is listed there. And then we're also, of course, as we mentioned, plant-based is not going away anytime soon. And so we're seeing a whole lot of ingredients that are either meat substitutes or just happen to be delicious and plant-based. You can see jackfruit there is a plant-based shredded pulled meat. And we have an example there from Chow Pascal, which just is a new virtual restaurant right now until it can open as a full service restaurant that's opening in San Francisco, but they're using it in their Ropa Vieja. Yeah, so I think, Andrew, you want to talk drinks? You want to drink,
yeah.
Andrew?
I just want to say 2 really quick things. I personally am really going to miss the buffet. I love a good buffet every now and then. So I'm personally mourning the loss of especially the Chinese buffets that I go to in Florida with my family. But I also want to say, if you check out Eater SF today, because one of our most beloved chefs, Anthony Strong, just announced a new concept where he's reimagined I want to say a VW Bug, but he's built in, he creates an experience for you, and he comes to you in his little van, and he sets out garden chairs, and then you sit and he cooks a meal for you. So again, these extensions in this creativity is really cool. Okay, on to beverages. It just happened today, and I love Anthony Strong for all of you, so support it. Okay. Oh my God, I'm sipping a glass of wine with a little TLC and a little bit of THC, and man, do I feel better about a pandemic. You know, it's a little bit, a bit of a double whammy of, you know, relaxation, if you will. I think this is just on the rise because, you know, obviously it has to be monitored, and it's very state by state. But there's going to be, I think, a lot of re-examination of how to infuse THC into different products and cocktails, et cetera, wine, and one will be wine. And there's a couple of really fun examples here of Can of Wine, where you can figure out where they came up with that name. And so we won't get into it too much, but I think you're going to see more of this. And one thing I do all know we all need is that end of the day glass of wine, or two or three, just about every day right now. So think about what this could do. All right, we should have all bought stock in that product, Candace, because I think it's because of this trend report, they are going to go through the roof. Okay.
But for those who are not drinking, there's these euphorics or another.
That's right. And for those of you who don't want the buzz, but still want the there's calming beverages. And there's going to be more of that. And so, you know, you can see here where, you know, teas and different drinks are going to be, you know, just built with various ingredients to calm you down. The one thing that I crack up about this slide every time I see it is Martha Stewart's marketing CBD. And Lee put in, you know, it's a BFD. And I had to Google what BFD meant because I was like, it's not my generation, but now I'm using it all the time. I love that term. So, but again, you can see drink well, sleep aid drinks. You know what I like about this? It's so much better to do this naturally than pop a pill. And we all need, you know, relaxation right now. And I think having some of these drinks to relax these are on the rise. I need one right now. I'm really going fast. Okay, I better sip some of that.
I was going to tell you to hurry up.
Okay, good. Okay. Yeah, I see we're good on time though. Okay, good. On the beverage side, bar branded cocktails. This is another great brand extension, direct to you. Bars that you love, restaurants that you love, doing cocktails for you with their own brand, bringing their brands to you, assembled in kits, or they're running classes, they're doing various things. But here's one of the favorite bars in the Bay Area, Smuggler's Cove, that launched their own brand of drinks. And now they're not only selling them on their own retail channels, but they're selling them through other retail channels. So all these, I hope you're seeing, are just opportunities that will continue post pandemic. Okay.
Okay.
And then cocktails for a crowd. Obviously this one is large format to go. Taking it home, enjoying a socially outdoor distance party with something that's large format. And you're seeing this in both wine and cocktails. And we're going to see more of this. And I think packaging has something to do with that as well, because if you buy large format, it could last for a few days with less delivery charges, less packaging, etc. Okay, I am going to speed it up, but this one's very exciting. High quality coffee quickly. So, I think we all, if you come from any generation, you remember bad instant coffee. Well, now several companies are producing these really beautiful single serve brew products. This is one that just came out from Mr. Espresso. It's called Steeped, and you're going to see several more of these. And what are these great for? They're great for working from home. They're great for hotel rooms. They're great for camping trips. So this is a product that we definitely see on the rise, and you should check it out because it's delicious.
Oops, let's see.
And then I know we're going to wrap up with a couple of beer trends because we are running a little short on time. I just want to say thank you to Aram and Brian. We had what we saw here is direct to consumer, as we've talked about. and less is more. So, and looking at, again, ingredients that you can infuse into these products was big. And then lower calorie, obviously, just a fewer LTO offers and more consistency, primarily because they're in the trenches right now, and they're trying to figure out how to continue to have people come into their breweries, but also get product to people wherever they need it. I encourage you to read this all when you have some time, because we're just touching on the highlights. Okay, and then wine trends to watch. We asked a distributor and a founder of Wine Dogs Imports, that's Magnus Ritterford, who has this very cool product. Candace, are you drinking it again like you were on the last webinar?
I'm not drinking it. I wasn't drinking
okay.
it, just like the can. It's a can.
Okay, there it is. I think Candace really drinks it all the time, and she's just lying to us right now. But wine clubs are going to be big for sure. Again, because you can get delivery once a month to your house now because you're home. Virtual tastings have obviously been big, and then alternate packaging, as we've talked about earlier, and then partnerships. And then we talked to one of our favorite somms, Tonya Pitts, here in the Bay Area. And obviously, she saw, again, more packaging options, special interest wine clubs featuring women winemakers or BIPOC winemakers. Definitely box wines are coming back. And she said, social justice, like we talked about earlier, will also be a big issue for wine as we move into the new year. And we talked about that. Okay, and then on the rise, just a couple of really quick ingredients that we saw: bitter sodas, impossible milk. Milk's made from just about anything that's not real milk. Beet juice, I mean nut milks, etc. And then you can read this on your own. But there's a lot of really fun opportunities, mostly I would say in the plant-based world.
And just before we go into hotel trends, I will say I see a couple questions coming in. We will leave time at the end for questions, so don't worry, we'll answer them. But we just want to make sure we get through everything. We'll stay on and answer as many questions.
I'll rip roar through these because obviously hotels have been equally impacted. I love this one. Work from home wouldn't be a trend this year because it's just a way of life. Work from hotel, we've started to really see, and it's interesting. And you know why? Because people got to get out of the house. Nobody expected to be working, in Candace's case, with her 5 children and her husband and everything, and trying to find a quiet area. Like, I'm even amazed right now, Candace, that nobody's come in to say, "Mommy, where's dinner?" But
we locked them out and turned up all the music so there'd be enough bandwidth. They're outside.
But so if Candace needed a break, she could check into a hotel for the day and possibly work from there. And we thought this is really ingenious, but Proper Hospitality partnered with Industrious to convert hotel suites into Industrious at Proper Hotels, which is a membership that you can buy and then work at various hotels. So while the hotel market will be slow to come back, interesting partnerships is going to be key. So one takeaway, partnership marketing, get that, write that down, because that's a lot of what we're talking about today is how do you partner with other people to extend your brand. So you can see there's a lot of different ways to do this, but I'm going to keep going because I know we have a lot to cover and want to leave a few minutes for questions. Mirror on the wall. Well, who would have thought this was going to be a trend where you're talking to a mirror and you're taking exercises from your mirror? But this is, again, why is this good for hotels? Because a lot of people are not going to feel comfortable going into health club facilities or workout rooms. So now you can put we have hotels that are actually doing where you can get a Peloton delivered to your room, or you can have this mirror installed in the rooms and provide in-room fitness opportunities. So I think this is going to be a way of life, honestly, moving forward. I truly believe that if hotels are not doing some sort of in-room fitness program, they should.
Yeah, and these are fun too. That's another added benefit. They're entertainment.
And then business travel has subscribed to subscription models. So buying models where you can, you're actually buying packages, like the Citizen M subscription model gives you access to workspaces. They've partnered with airline loyalty clubs where you can use airline, what are they called? The hospitality suites of the airline lounges. And so again, it goes back to partnership marketing, but you're buying subscriptions that will include X amount of stays and a lot of other perks. And you can do virtual meetings from these lounges or these areas if travel's still going to be limited. So these are all, and then smart design brings obviously low contact. We were sort of on this in the past. The reason we were on it in the past is because people didn't want to be bothered so much, right? That was the thing. They were like, I don't want to go through this. But now it's partially like, we don't want you to come into our room once we're in our room. We want this to be, we want to understand that, it's less contact. And so you're seeing a lot of smart apps being developed to control lights and to order food and to do everything in your room without a lot of contact. It's a little bit sad because, part of going to a hotel is, having contact, but I think this will ebb, but I also feel like that, a lot of this will stick. So smart design brings low contact.
I think the other thing is this is one we see continuing even once people aren't as worried about germs and, and interacting with staff, just because there's, like, we're all now so proficient with Zoom and these meetings and technology that prior to that people weren't as comfortable with. They're comfortable with now and are seeing the usefulness of it. And so we think the same thing will apply to hotel rooms too. People won't be fussing with the lights because they don't know how to turn them on.
Yeah. And then reimagining the wedding party, and I'll throw in business meeting. I think obviously small, intimate is going to be the word of the future, at least for the foreseeable future, and doing all-inclusive packages where your group can get a pod in the hotel, like these 6 rooms are yours, this outdoor space is yours, this meeting room is yours, and you're with your group and you're in your pod and you're going to have your ceremony and we'll put in virtual programming for everybody else that you want to invite to attend the wedding or the celebration or the meeting. And you'll see here that as we go back to meetings, I would highly encourage hotels to develop more intimate meeting packages. The River Terrace Inn has done a great job of this in Napa. And we've got other examples there, but small with a virtual component is going to be key for the foreseeable future. And then this one, I'm actually not going to spend too much time on because we are running a little tight, but you should print this slide out and give it to all your meetings and event planners that are working with you, because this sort of has the safety, it has how the experience can be looked at, your equipment checklist, and then your technology. So it's a great slide to use, but you can see these 4 categories are everything that people are going to be looking for when they book events as they look to the future.
So marketing consideration. Yeah, this is my favorite section because it's kind of like, what do you do with all these good ideas and how to use them to drive revenue? So, this is our word cloud for 2021. I think every word in here is a word that maybe most of us hadn't used prior to March. Some of our favorites there, curbside is the biggest because I think, we've talked about curbside being the word of the year. Obviously there's pivot. You're on mute. That's another one we're using all the time. So this is sort of a marketer's checklist for maybe words you don't want to, that are maybe a little overused, but to remember them for the future. So,
and Candace, this is done by our Candace's wonderful Carbonate graphic designer, Hannah. And I think you should all print this out and frame it as a reminder of what this year has been like, because I think this is it's the most amazing slide out, and I love it. Okay, anyway.
So we have a little bit here about Gen Z, and why you might be thinking about Gen Z. Isn't that, your children? And actually the first group of Gen Z has just graduated from college and now they're ready to eat, drink, and dine and travel. And so we just included some things about this generation. Who we're talking about. We're talking about people born between 1995 and 2015. They are digital natives. So what's really important to think about this as you're looking at, how you're developing your marketing, they have never known a time when there wasn't a smartphone. And so they live very seamlessly between their mobile device, whatever that is, and the real world. They interact with their friends the same way, and they expect brands to interact with them that way as well. So, you know, when you're thinking about what should my restaurant website be or what should my hotel booking system be, realize that they are treating your online presence as if it was your in-person experience. They care about experiences, but more for this generation, at least right now, is that they look for things that are enriching their everyday lives, like hobbies. You know, their millennials, on the other hand, are more likely to splurge on luxury travel and hotels. The other thing about Gen Z is that they are incredibly diverse. They are the most diverse generation in the US to date. And so we think that's going to have an interesting impact when combined with, you know, some of the other trends that report in terms of, you know, what are we going to eat? Because, you know, and what will we be, how will we look at the lens of what qualifies as, you know, a high profile food cuisines when you have such a diverse lens that people will be viewing it through. They are much more influenced by social media than millennials. I know that there are some people on this call who are saying like, oh my gosh, like that's not going away. And no, it's sadly not. Gen Z makes up 75% of Instagram and 40% of TikTok users. So if this is a market that you want to reach, the social media is the power channel for them. And they account for 40% of global consumers in 2020. Now that may not necessarily apply to some of our luxury hotel and restaurant experiences, but it will, because they're entering the workforce. This is an example. This is a Snack Pass. It's an app that's really taking college campuses by storm. And it's a really good example of how this generation thinks. It socializes the purchase of a snack. So you go onto the app, you order something for pickup from your local restaurant, and your friends can all see what you've done. You get a point, you can share it. It's an example of how this generation views everything that they do as having both a presence in their online world and in the real world. And it's the same to them. Less media, different mediums. So I think this is something that's been happening for, you know, the past 10 years, probably, with the changing landscape of the media. Every publicist on this call knows what we're talking about. You know, but the state of media is continuing to change rapidly. And what we're seeing is that a lot of high quality media is now moving behind paywalls because, let's face it, journalists need to be paid and someone has to pay for the content that we're all consuming. So we're seeing a lot of high quality things moving behind a paywall. And then we're also seeing, on the other end of the spectrum, new mediums. So, you know, podcasts are not new, certainly, but they are really, really, 49% of 12 to 34-year-olds are listening to at least one podcast a month. So there's lots of different ways that you can tell your story, but those ways are certainly changing, and there are less media overall. So the competition is fierce for those eyeballs. AR is your new virtual tour guide. You know, we are seeing this being an interesting way that destinations are connecting with people. You know, imagine pointing your phone at the Acropolis and seeing how it might have looked when it was intact. Again, this is just basically how you extend that digital experience and marry the two together. And AR is another way that we're seeing. We think this is going to grow quite a bit in the future. It's a little preview. Reimagining corporate perks programs. This is an interesting one. You know, as businesses nationwide have shut down offices, and many are, you know, predicting them to be closed through the end of next year, it's likely that the nature of office culture has really changed quite permanently, perhaps, which is an interesting challenge, I think, for company leaders building culture and for HR teams as well. And so we're seeing a lot of companies trying to find ways to connect, reward employees in different ways, connect with them, keep top of mind, keep people engaged. And so some corporate perks are another way to do that. Charles Chocolate is an artisan chocolate. They rolled out an artisan chocolate subscription service that was a way for kind of to automate that contact between company and employee by that special gift that comes every month. We're seeing also that a lot of hotels and properties are doing, you know, very specific corporate retreats that are designed for your whole small groups and really taking into account the safety consideration. So that's a great opportunity for marketers to take what you're doing and package it up in a way that is for corporate perks.
And I'm going to wrap this up, and we're going to leave a couple minutes for questions. And I apologize if we run a few minutes over for questions. I just want to say that, again, to sort of reiterate, the idea of doing partnerships and then sort of tying it to cause related, so partnership and cause related, this trend is really in that realm. So bringing in councils or ambassadors to work on behalf of your products, which is also going to help them going through their tough time because they're getting some more visibility. We're helping sell products. So culinary advisors and are very, are on the rise. In this case, the program you're looking at is the CHO Chocolate Pros program, where they partnered with 4 pastry chefs around the country, and they've all submitted recipes, and it all goes back to their messaging of doing good. And you've seen chefs and somms do this, mission-based companies that align. We've just rolled out a new product called Dough Wines, and they are part of the James Beard Foundation Impact Programs, and they've made a commitment that a percentage of their sales will go back to the impact programs, and they're going to be working with bakers and various rising stars across the country to help extend their brand, but also do good. So Carbonate side, but we're really all one, or bringing any sort of council to the table that you feel, it could be an environmental council, whatever it is, there's a good opportunity there. Okay, and we're going to wrap up with the final slide at 2:59, and I'm going to say, let's get digital. Okay, I had to get that in because there's the soundtrack from this trends presentation every year. But you've obviously seen this that restaurants have are going very, very digital, and whether that be through reservations or online ordering or on arrival or the way you're communicating with your guests via email, text, whatever it is, there's going to be a lot more integration of all of this into one easy POS system or online ordering platform that can do it all. So obviously our friends at Open Table are already working on that. Toast, 7 rooms. So getting aligned, and this is the same thing for hotels. One source to do it all is going to be key. And I think we're seeing a lot of this, but we're not totally there. And they're our branding and it's going to be, from a marketing point of view, you're going to have a lot more ways to communicate to your guests. So on that note, right at 3 o'clock, I'm going to wrap with a couple things just in case any of you decide to leave us, which I hope you don't. But reminder to post about the report and about us. I do want to say a big thank you to Lise Steele again, and for everything she's done. And I also want to say, while it's December 3rd and it's the holiday season, on behalf of af&co and Carbonate, we want to wish you all a very happy, healthy holiday. And I'm going to say, you know what? Kick the crap out of 2020 and get it out the effing door already. So, this New Year's Eve should be really focused on the future and on what's to come. And just we also just want to thank you for your support of us through all of this. So on that note, we're just going to say the report's available for download, and we're going to also be emailing you a link. And we are officially completed, but I know we have a few questions. So if you're still on, we're happy to stay on and answer those questions.
Yeah, I'll give you some questions. First of all, yes, some people are asking about downloading the report. You can do that. We will email the report automatically to everybody that's on this webinar. But if you can't wait, you can go to either site, either carbonategroup.com/insights or af&co.com in the What's Trending session. And either way, you can download the report right there and have all of these examples and details and things to dive into. But we will send it out tomorrow as well. The first question here is plant-based the same as vegan or vegetarian?
And graphics and everything.
Do you distinguish, or is plant-based just the current buzzword?
Okay. Well, I mean, true vegan is, I think plant-based is part of the vegan world, but if you're, there's vegan to all different levels. And I think plant-based is for people that want to eat just that, plant-based. Whereas vegan, there's certain things you will not even touch. I spent the weekend with a vegan, and I will say that, there's vegan butter and vegan everything. I could do like a vegan, I'll just throw that in. But
that was a freebie.
So I'd say they're not exactly the same, but plant-based sort of falls into the vegan world. It's just there are many people who are choosing to be plant-based but not be vegan, if that makes sense. So I don't think plant-based is a buzzword, because I think people really care about I think a lot of times plant-based is for personal health, but it's also for the environment. Whereas vegan doesn't always necessarily connotate healthy. So I think you really have to look at, you can still, eat pretty rich with vegan. So I hope that makes sense. It's plant-based is part of the vegan world, if that's a good answer for that.
Yeah, and I think the other thing we're seeing is that people are eating plant-based that don't always, that still eat meat as well. It's just that they're choosing, and part of it, we saw this rising because chefs started doing so many interesting things. They started to become so many more products available. I think we all remember, 15 years ago having a rock solid dry vegan cookie and thinking I'm never gonna have that again. But now there's so many products that are just really delicious and so much innovation.
Yeah. Also, plant-based is great. It's a whole menu category now, whereas they used to have one bad entree with vegetables and call it their vegetarian plate.
Yeah. The next question is virtual branding for new concepts similar to incubator restaurants? I can take this one if you want, or you want to take it?
Yeah, no, well, I can start and then jump in. Indirectly, it sort of is. Introducing a virtual brand, like Candace said, if it doesn't work, there's a lot less of a, commitment to saying it was just a pop-up or it was. So I do see a lot of similarity because you're testing concepts. I think incubator restaurants, at least in the past, you were able to go and experience the restaurant. So you were seeing spaces where people were doing, like the Michael Mina test kitchen concept. But I would say that there's a lot of similarity. I don't know, Candace, how you feel about that, but I think there's certainly a lot of similarity.
I think there's definitely a lot of similarity, but I also think we're seeing people trying virtual brands because there's not diners to fill a restaurant, right? So that's part of it too. I would say the difference, as Andrew mentioned, with an incubator restaurant, you're giving people an experience and you're testing that experience. With a virtual brand, you can't hold back on the marketing because it only exists online, right? And there's not, there might be signage that someone can pass, but it, used to be that the guest would go online and find something. Now your brand has to find people online. So you have to have a really strong visual identity. You have to have a really strong, social media advertising and posting program. You have to have an email marketing program that you're retargeting people. So the marketing becomes, I think there's always in restaurants that balance between the marketers and the operators. When things are going well, the operators are, feeling like they're doing a good job, which is probably true. And then when things aren't bad, there's, we're not getting enough people in the door. It's marketing's fault. And I think with virtual brands, marketing bears as much responsibility as the operator in terms of creating that experience. So you can't.
I'll throw in one other
on the marketing.
Sorry, I'll throw in one other quick thing. I think a lot of the well-known chefs are doing the virtual concepts because they're trying one thing. Like Michael Mina did the Mac and Q out of the International Smoke brand, whereas I sometimes think incubator concepts were having to be a lot more developed because they were really meant to be a future restaurant, like a full service restaurant. So I think a lot of the chefs now are having a good time coming up with concepts that they might have wanted to try, and they're presenting them virtually because they can use the same staff. So there's a level of consolidation as well.
Mm-hmm. We have lots of questions. Let's see. This one is, and I don't know if we know the answer to this one, but we maybe will need to find the answer, Andrew. This might require research. What do those cannabis, THC, CBD wines taste like? I can't speak to that directly.
I mean, I've tasted one, and I really didn't even know it was in there, to tell you the truth. But I think that's a really good research project for whoever asked that question. Let's get together and buy a couple bottles and get out. And obviously the only way to research that is to try it, right? So, because I think everybody has a different palate. So whoever asked that question, I think you should buy some and then tell us what you think it tastes like.
Yeah, we'll be in touch. We with the boss and the questions too. Let's see. This one is, what direction do you think fine dining will take in 2021? This is a really good question.
I think it's going to make a comeback, but I think it's going to be reimagined and I will say the second half of the year, where a lot of what we've learned about less contact at the table, less use of things that are being touched by a bunch of people, I think all that's going to stick, but I do believe people have a zest for loving their chefs and loving the food they do. And, I think the economy is going to have a big impact on, what this next stimulus package is going to look like, what unemployment's going to look like. But the one thing I can say is there's been a lot of people who have done pretty well during all this, and they're going to have money and they're going to want to go out. So I think it'll make a comeback, but it's going to be a slow return because business travel is going to be a very, a slow return, conventions, and that fuels a lot of the fine dining market. So I think smaller independent fine dining experiences will be what comes back first. Neighborhood.
Yeah. I mean, what we've also seen is, and we've seen this more with hotels that have shared with us that the luxury, it's partially because they're at smaller occupancies, but they're still finding an audience, that there's a large contingency of people who are, feeling like it's worth it to spend a little more to get a higher quality experience because they'll be safer. And so there is also that same feeling, I think, with fine dining. We've seen, ticketed events and very exclusive feeling things that are still not cheap, very expensive, but maybe making people have that trust a little bit more than maybe they do with something more casual.
Yeah, we actually did that ticketed dinner for the opening of Eat, Drink, SF. It was very safe and socially distanced with 4 chefs. And it was the first time everybody was like, wow, it's like old times. We're back. We're back enjoying, a curated dinner. So I think it'll come back. It's going to come back strong.
Yeah, and then this last one here is how will people feel comfortable when inside restaurants? And this one, I'll just start with this one, is really very regional. That's the one thing I think that, we have the benefit of having team members located in different parts of the country and working with clients all over the country. And it is a very regional, very state by state, city by city, as it relates to what people are doing, how people are worrying about things. And it'll be interesting to see if that changes as, the virus continues to spread. But it's, talking to somebody in Florida is very different than talking to somebody in Idaho, which is completely different than talking to someone in New York or San Francisco. And so, people's comfort level is incredibly different based on where they live.
Yeah, I would also throw in that we've talked about this earlier, but cleanliness theater is a term that we've been talking a lot about. People want to see the air purifiers. They want to see the masks. They want to see airflow. They want to know that you're not going to approach a table if people don't put their masks back on. But it's a regional thing. But I think the more confidence you can give people in how you're taking care of them, and them seeing it versus you just telling them, is going to be key.
Yeah, I mean that's probably a good note to end on, because that's the reality is that that's the one thing that hasn't changed. It comes down to how you make people feel at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So,
and let's face it, nobody ever really wanted to go into a dirty restaurant before the pandemic. So you know what I mean. So now we just have to amplify the how we're taking care of but also our employees, because I think that's really important. How we're taking care of our employees is key as well. All right. On that note, I will say, on behalf of Candace and me, thank you for joining us and for sticking with us for a few extra minutes. And for your questions, we're always available by email, and you can reach out to any of us. And I wish you all the best for what's going to be, still a little bit of a bumpy road. No, a big bumpy road, but hopefully there's going to be some smooth sailing by, I'm going to say by June for the majority of the country. So that's my prediction. So anyway, thank you. Happy New Year. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Andrew.
Have a great day. Thank you. Okay. Speak to you soon.